welcome back.
I shall mount your bones in my hall.
And also a very special welcome back to the Dralthi, who are making their second appearance in this LP. And also this is my very first flight in the Orion. Well, not my very first flight in the Orion actually. These guys proved to be rather difficult, so this is some number of tries later. And having tried a variety of strategies, of which the one you'll see here is the only one that really came off. The Dralthi are very different to the one that I encountered in Troy, or at least to my memories of it. When I accepted a mission involving defending New Detroit from the Dralthi, I wasn't expecting it to be particularly more difficult than missions I have previously had with Talons in, and I thought it'd be some good variety. That definitely didn't prove to be the case. These Dralthi are extremely manoeuvrable, very hard to hit, very fast, and they seem to work together a lot better than pirates or retros do. The strategy I've ended up picking is to take advantage of my over-engine Orion's ability to sustain its afterburner speed more or less indefinitely. Which means that since the enemy doesn't like to turn towards me when I'm more or less right behind it, it spends a lot of time running away and heading sideways as you're seeing it do, which gives me a chance to take snapshots before it turns back away again. And also because the enemy doesn't like to run its engine energy down too far and doesn't want to stay at afterburner the entire time, or possibly the Dralthi's energy generation is a bit worse than the Orion's and they can't. Either way, it means that the coordination between the three Dralthi, or the two Dralthi as they are now, is substantially reduced, and therefore I don't get swarmed and killed. In theory, the Orion ought to be very good at shrugging off damage, so I did initially try to dogfight conventionally, but what I found was that while in theory the Orion does have the strongest shields and armour in the game, in practice the shields didn't do all that much. They were somewhat useful, but all of these Dralthi are equipped with missiles that do knock the shields down, and the way that damage mounts in Privateer means that the large amount of armour I had just meant that it took an awful long time to kill me while my Orion was sitting disabled in space and able to change direction. So this seems to be the only strategy that works, and as a bonus to the fact that it disrupts the Dralthi coordination, it also basically means that I tend to outrun enemy missile fire without needing an ECM, which I don't have. So I suppose just as well I don't need one. I was expecting to hate the Orion, where from the threads conversations about it, I thought it would be most similar to the Wing Commander 2 broadsword. That did not prove to be the case. The broadsword is a slow, lumbering bomber where you're mostly supposed to deal with the enemy by switching to the turrets and blasting them from whichever turret has the best firing arc on the enemies that are approaching. I think I commented in Avantod's thread that the game was not called Corvette Commander, and if I wanted to do that I would have bought something different. I really dislike the broadsword. I want to outfly my enemies, not to just sit still and outshoot them. But the Orion is not like that. In fact, if I had to come up with a Wing Commander fighter it is most similar to, it would in fact be the Scimitar from Wing Commander 1. The Scimitar is reasonably fast, reasonably manoeuvrable. It's probably the easiest fight to do the afterburner slide in Wing Commander 1, something I've not really tried yet in Privateer to a great extent, and I'll have to have a greater look at now because the slide is an awful lot of fun, so if that works in the Orion I shall be using it a lot. And it's got very good gun energy, it fires guns quite well and takes a long time to run dry, which is definitely the case here. The engine's keeping the afterburners and the guns more or less operational. But it does take a while to recharge after that, so you spend your time alternating between attack and defence. And that's quite similar to what I'm doing here, and the Scimitar is also fairly vulnerable when it gets hit. It doesn't have great armour. And I quite like the Scimitar. Not as much as I like the Raptor, of course, like almost everybody else, like Wing Commander 1, but it was, it wasn't a terrible fighter. and was provided a good challenge. It was superior to the Dralthi Mark II on the grounds that you could see what you were doing. Much as the Raptor, so much as the Orion is superior to the Tarsus on the grounds that I can see more of what I'm doing. The field of view is still pretty bad, but it's better than the Tarsus was. Since now I have the displays which are in the way of my viewports are not, at least in the way positions that are most problematic. This sort of cross-shaped field of view is better than a sort of normal box field of view that would cover the same area, since it encompasses the directions that the enemy fighters are most likely to head off my screen, that is left, right, up and down. Diagonals are less common, so I can track them and follow them more easily. Not that the current way of fighting really cares one way or the other. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I don't know if it'll come across in the video to what extent this is actually quite good entertainment, because it is pretty slow, but I thought it ought to at least be kept in for the first time so you can get an idea of what it's like. If you don't like it, I'll think about speeding it up or cutting it out in future videos. But it's... I think I've said before in these videos, and certainly in the thread, that one of my big hobbies is archery. Now, there's a few similarities here. It's not quite the same. I shoot Olympic recoil rather than compact, which means that the full weight of my bow's draw is on my fingertips at all times, so we don't have that problem in these, but it's the same sort of basic idea in that you've got to hold the crosshair in the right place until the Dralthi flips sideways, presents the full profile of the Dralthi to you, so you've got a good chance of hitting it, and then fire correctly at the right time. And it reminds me a bit of the last section of my draw and release of an arrow. That's quite good fun. Now, it's also really, really suboptimal, and frankly, I have to say that compared to actually flying this, with the viewpoint of destroying the Dralthi in the most efficient manner possible, neutron guns are really bad, because this should not be anywhere near this high. I should not be getting a good sense of achievement from managing to land 2 gun hits on the enemy, which was actually what I was getting here. The neutrons are so slow. I think they're marginally faster than fire shots, but that just says it all really, doesn't it? I'm comparing it to a missile. That shouldn't be an issue. So yeah, the people in the thread wanted me to show off all the guns. Well, we've shown off the neutron gun now, it sucks. Can I have something better, please? I'll accept that it does do a lot of damage, but it doesn't actually do a lot of damage in the sense that it only does that damage when it hits, and it hits almost none of the time, because it sucks. Which is not to say that I don't find this an entertaining challenge, but I do feel that from the perspective of the viewer, maybe, they should probably want something that allows me to destroy my enemies a bit faster. Now, again, to be fair, this is exaggerated by the Dralthi. We'll be seeing some Talons in a later fight. Spoilers, I mean, I think you could probably guess that I'd be putting in some hostile Talons, because that's kind of what happens in Privateer. And I do... Well, I was going to say I do rather better against them. Actually, as you'll see, that statement may not be the most accurate one I ever make. I certainly get rid of them rather faster, though there are other circumstances there as well. So I don't know if the Dralthi is, in terms of armour, better than the Talon as well. It's definitely got stronger shields, which doesn't surprise me hugely. I'm not entirely sure what these Dralthi are though. CIC doesn't seem to have a page on the Privateer Dralthi, the existence of which it largely seems to ignore. And what its function is not entirely clear. I mean, I'm guessing that they're intended as long-range commerce raiders. Whether it's an actual privateer model, sort of in the British sense in the Napoleonic era, where you, or for that matter the French sense, where you have letters of marque given to individual noble Dralthi who arrange a couple of bangs of native fighters and go out there with some hyperspace-equipped Dralthi and create havoc. Or whether it's your Karl Dönitz style wolf pack, with hunter-killer groups of Dralthi coordinated from their sector headquarters. I'm not sure which of those the Dralthi are going on, but I could see either of those actually working for them. Though possibly the latter not quite so well, in the sense that the Confederation does have a communications tech edge. So they might find coordinating their wolf packs and not and getting the Confederation moving their convoys around them would be quite difficult. Right, you just saw there what I commented about the not quite the same circumstances, or whatever I said, relating to why the Talons take less time. Yeah, I kind of colliding with Talons. I'm not quite sure what it is. It may just be that the Talon is not as fast and not as manoeuvrable as the Dralthi. So after a dogfight where I was used to the Dralthi moving out of the way somewhat faster, the Talon's slower motion meant that I just collided with it because I was expecting it to dodge like a Dralthi. I guess we will see that if I have a future mission in the Orion which doesn't involve any Kilrathi. Anyway, that is the missions in New Detroit completed. I had to clear the nav point and I had to defend New Detroit against the Kilrathi. Both of those are now done. So I am off to Oakham, which is a town in the Midlands of England, but probably more relevantly in this case it's a system that's 3 jumps away. First, we had our first jump here to XXN 1927. Now we're off to 119 CE. These systems are ones named by astronomers rather than explorers, one assumes. And sadly, in this case, at the jump point, there are further Talons. Now, I did actually consider ramming as a strategy against the Kilrathi, and it does work to some extent.
Dump your cargo before you blow, will ya?
But I found that it did too much damage to my fighter.
Yeah, you're nailed, pal.
And I was losing these fights against the Talons beyond one tier. The Orion doesn't take much damage in these, but if you're already fairly knackered, then it can take, that damage it takes is largely fatal. So here we are again. I'm getting a bit better at not running into Talons, but not substantially so. I think here we're seeing the most obvious case of me not having adjusted to the fact that neutron guns take way longer to fire after firing to reach their target than mesons do, because you can see my accuracy here is entirely terrible, but if I were firing meson guns it would be much, much better. Anyway, I think I've probably bitched about neutrons enough, and you see my solution to the neutron gun problem still appears to be ramming. It's interesting to note here that unlike the Kilrathi, who did at least try to pursue me when I fired one fighter at Afterburn, here the pilots seem not to have bothered at all. So I wonder again I have this speculation that the Kilrathi are written to be better at cooperative tactics than human piloted ships are. Which would be interesting, and also fairly accurate based on how the Wing Commander games played. Kilrathi fly together very well. Yay, I killed a Talon without colliding with it. It is actually quite noticeable that the Talons are struggling to scratch the Orion's armour. When I first started flying the Orion, I kind of hated it, but I realised quite rapidly that actually what problem I was having was with the Dralthi, not the Orion. There's nothing really wrong with the Orion. It is definitely an upgrade over the Tarsus in, no, well, pretty much every way except for the fact that my Tarsus didn't have neutron guns and this does. Yeah, okay, I'll stop going on about that now. Anyway, this is the final enemy of this run, I believe. Talons were essentially no threat except for the fact that I really do have to learn how to stop colliding with them. I guess the trick there is that I need to not treat them like Dralthi, because that's basically what I'm doing, and it's causing the problem that I'm having. Whether or not I should treat them like I treated them when I was flying a Tarsus, I don't know, I don't think that works. I mean, I said when I was flying a Tarsus that I hoped that the different fighters would make the game play differently, and the Orion definitely does change things almost completely from the Tarsus. Oh look, what happened again. Oops. In the, as I said, this is a lot sort of, Wing Commander 1 is certainly in there a bit. It's not even really like that though, I'm struggling to think of a comparison that's really like flying an Orion. Tarsus was a lot like Wing Commander 3, which I didn't enjoy so much. Anyway, this is now mostly like flying in a straight line.
Maintain speed
That's a
and course
Confederation
for
destroyer over there, a
No
paradigm glass.
contraband detected. You may proceed.
Which will why they need a destroyer to patrol an uninhabited system, but that's what they've got. And Now it's a straight run to Oakham, which is this pirate base here in an asteroid belt.
Looking sharp, Ace.
It looks like a mining base on both the outside and the inside, and it's in the middle of an asteroid belt, which I suppose is a sensible place for a pirate base in the sense that it will help in evade detection. I'm now going to treat the asteroid belt with my usual contempt and attempt to afterburn with it. This does perhaps not go entirely according to plan, but it's fun to see that the asteroid head spins you completely around. I would totally have shown it off on purpose if I had known it existed, which I did not. Anyway, we are done here this time.
An automatic landing zone.
So thanks for watching. I've been Alan, this has been Winking on the Planeteer, and join me next time when I'm in great need of some repairs.